Here are the supplies you're going to need to make your pillow. You'll probably need a ruler, your needle, scissors, a marker, or some kind of pencil that will make a mark on here that you can see on your fabric. And we'll use pins and, of course, thread. I'll supply both of these for you. The first step is to cut 2 pieces of fabric that are the same size. So here are my 2 pieces of fabric. I'm choosing to do 2 that match. You are more than welcome to choose 2 different colors, different styles, or even use 1 piece of the fabric and maybe one of your tie-dyes. Or 2 tie-dyes. It's up to you. So step 1 is to cut them and make sure they're somewhat the same size and shape. Step 2, and you can follow along in your packet, is that you need to go and make a mark, a 1/2 inch in from the sides on your pieces of fabric. It specifies on the back. My fabric, you can tell this is the back and this is the front very easily, so I'm going to turn both of them over. If your fabric is like this pink one, where both sides are the same, you don't have to worry about that. You just need to decide which one is the back. So I'm going to take this ruler and I'm going to put it on the edge and mark a 1/2 inch down and a 1/2 inch down. Now I'm going to use the ruler and make a straight line. I'm going to keep going around all 4 sides on both pieces of fabric and come back to you. Now both these pieces are marked, and it's time for me to move on to step 3. Step 3 says to take your first piece of fabric with the decorative side face up and put it on the table. Step 2 is to take the next piece with the decorative side down and place it on top. This is a really important step. If you don't have the decorative side, the side you want to show inside, when you finish, your pillow is going to look inside out. So make sure you're following that step. The next step is that I need to pin all these corners together. So you might want to try and match up these lines if you can, or have the fabrics going the same way. But what's most important is that we're going to be able to follow these lines once you get started. Putting in the pins is just like when you do one of those slip stitches where you go down and up and leave it sticking out across all 4 corners. These are sharper than the needles we've been using, so do be careful with them. I don't want anyone poking themselves too hard. Now I've got pins along all the sides. It's going to hold the 2 pieces together as I move on to the next step. Now it's time to get your thread your needle, and do a running stitch along this line. So I'm going to pick this up, and the easiest way I find is to kind of pinch these little circles and then pull. You're going to want quite a bit of thread, so I would do 2 pulls. You don't have to measure the way we did in weaving, where you went a whole yard from your nose to your fingertips, but you definitely want quite a bit of thread. You can always come back and get more. Thread your needle and tie your knot like usual. Now it's time to take this and tie your knot. 1, 2, 3. Go a little slower than you usually would because you have so much extra thread. And there's my knot. I may want it to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to just tie a regular pull-through knot right on top of there, just in case I want it to be a little fatter. Now, make sure you take your time on the running stitch And remember, we need to leave about a 5-inch hole for you to stuff it later. I'm going to start right here, just like in the picture, travel around until I get back and stop, leaving that 5-inch hole. You can start from the back like we usually do. Push your needle through. Pull, pull, pull till it's all the way. Oop. There we go. And do your running stitch so it's under and over. If it's too hard to go through both pieces of fabric this way, then just take your time and do the down, up, like the dolphin, like she talks about. So down and up. I'm making sure that my needle is right on this line before I move on. And I will check in with you after I've completed that running stitch, not forgetting you got to make sure you leave the hole. Now I've finished stitching all the way around and I've left a little hole. So I'm going to unpin it to show you. And your next step, there's the gap where I've left it unstitched. And you can already see the stitches here and here, so it's got to hold strong. And you need to unpin and safely put away all your pins. Once the pins are removed, the next step is to trim these corners. When you turn it inside out, you're going to see a big difference. So make sure you trim it, but be careful of your stitches. Make sure to check before you cut, and you don't want to cut through them. So there's my stitch, so I can cut. This is an important part, so don't skip it or think it won't matter. If you turned it inside out and forgot, flip it back and trim them. Now all 4 corners are done. The following step is that you go to the hole you left, right here, and turn it right side out. So I reach in, I grab it, and turn it the right way. Now, because you've trimmed these corners, you can poke it so that it looks nice and square. And you'll need to go around to every corner and do that before you grab any stuffing. So here I'm pushing it, trying to make it look nice and square. And lastly, right over here where my hole is. There, now it's looking a lot more like a pillow, and it's time to stuff it. You'll take some batting, go through the hole, and fill it till you're happy with it. It doesn't have to be too tight. If you can't hold this closed again, then you've got too much in. So go ahead and keep putting your stuffing in. Now that I've got enough stuffing that it's firm but not too tight, I'm going to come back here and hold it closed. Then you take your needle with your thread, tie a knot, and you're going to do a whip stitch. So I come over here. It's going to be a little tough because you're going through 4 pieces of fabric. And then around. As close as you can to the edge, the less it'll show. But make sure that it's a nice tight stitch. That's more important. And I will check in with you when I'm done.